As a specialty tax firm, we specialize with IRS tax debt, years of unfiled taxes, and in dealing with IRS examinations or IRS audits. I'm known as TaxPro Serge. I'm an enrolled agent, Juris Doctorate, with over 19 years experience. I have personally resolved hundreds of millions of dollars on behalf of my clients with their back taxes as their power of attorney. In dealing with the IRS, there's probably two different aspects on all cases that we have to deal with. The first aspect is the technicality of things. Income, expenses, applicable exclusions, deductions, and credits. And the other aspect is the procedure part, because dealing with them is some muddy waters, of which I have successfully navigated in the past. And when the objective is to solve some of these tax problems, we always want to review the totality of the circumstances first. Tax debt strategies is very difficult. On the one aspect, you have to deal directly with the IRS collection, which they don't make it simple. They're broken down to 4 different categories. First one, the majority of cases is with ACS collections. A second less common department is known as Special Compliance Department with the IRS, a division of ACS. Third is the private collections agency. They're a big game player here with the IRS. And last and the most difficult cases is dealing with field collections. Field collections employ the most powerful employee in the IRS arsenal. They are known as a revenue officer. Revenue officer cases are very difficult to deal with because you have to deal one-on-one with that revenue officer, of which their whole goal is to get paid every single penny that you owe to the IRS. When dealing with the tax debt, there's several points of view to say what you do qualify for. And of course, the goal is how you can legally reduce it or eliminate the back taxes. But in order to evaluate the appropriate solution, we have to evaluate the totality of the circumstances to see what would make sense in order to strike with the IRS. And we always evaluate what is the right solution for somebody based upon the totality of the circumstances. Because of course, everybody wants a forgiveness or reduction of the taxes. So the very beginning step is to have a solid base and foundation for every single case. I always begin that with a compliance review of somebody's entire account history with the IRS. Generally, they do have 10 years available as far as records. They archive anything older than that. And of course, in some cases, they have records older than the 10 years because of some kind of open situation that occurred way back when. The compliance review, it's also known as a snapshot, where I get a year-by-year breakdown of either tax balances owed, interest and penalties, or years of unfiled taxes. And second of all, we like to take a root causes from the IRS records, and historically based upon these records, we'd like to take a look at the cause of all these root problems. And the other aspects to get your side of the story, as far as the year-by-year breakdown, or bring this up, it's kind of difficult to review records from 6 months ago or a year ago, and sometimes we present facts and records from 7, 6, 5 years ago. Nevertheless, we like to get your point of view. And also, your mentality plays a very key part. Because right now it's important to know whether you want to do whatever it takes to fix it or you kind of just don't care. And if you don't care, then nobody else will. After evaluating all that, we want to see, one, the legality of it. Did you show up to an audit? Did you file returns? Did the IRS do them for you? And if not, possibly one of the reconsideration programs might reduce what you owe. If you're involved in a marriage where it's unfair to hold you accountable, then we would evaluate one of the equitable relief solutions, including innocent spouse relief. If you're going through extreme hardships, life circumstances, and it's just unfair for you to pay it, even though you are able to pay and even though you do owe it, the IRS does have something called effective tax administration. And then the financial products is if you're not able to afford to pay, offering compromise, doubt as to collectability, the non-collectible status of the partial pay installment plan, are the financial hardship programs that the IRS has. And with time, they might be considered a tax debt settlement. Another key aspect is also penalty forgiveness, which generally you would want to aim for in case none of the other tax resolution programs apply. And under those conditions, you agree to pay the taxes within time or you pay in full, and either the IRS applies the abatement of penalty under the first-time provisions, or you have what's known as reasonable cause or the reasonable excuses as far as life circumstances would occur. Having years of unfiled taxes, there's definitely conflicting law. Whether one, you have to file every single missing tax year. So if you haven't filed for 15 years, the law is you should do it. However, there's provisions under the Fresh Start where they just say, you know what, come out of the shadows, let's start a base of the 6 most recent years. With that, we'll get things started. And normally the collections department has that available to most folks. That way you come out of the shadows, get in compliance, and get yourself in some kind of reasonable resolution. The other aspect, if you reside in a state where there's a state income tax like California, New York, Virginia, and you're under several tax problems that it's worthwhile for you to file even older than 6 years, then sometimes that's a strategy that we might employ. And that's where the strategy is as far as what needs to be filed and with who. Other aspects when it comes to years of unfiled taxes is refunds. They do get applied as far as you have a tax debt, or you can only claim for the 3 most recent years. We also want to apply the applicable throughout this historical time that we do the years of unfiled taxes. We want to always make sure that you qualify for every single credit within the year because this offsets the tax. Even though you may not get the refund, we still want a possible tax reduction within the tax filings. Getting caught up in tax filings as well, we have to deal with the process and procedures. And also sometimes it's common where you have additional tax filings with additional tax debt. We want to make sure that we include a tax resolution for all tax debt the moment you are caught up. And mentally make sure moving forward that you are all caught up and compliant in future tax filings. You would never want to in the future have a new tax balance or file late in the future because that could come back and bite you. Because the IRS will throw out any resolution that you're involved now out the window.